Previously in X-Men, presumed dead by their longtime mentor Charles Xavier, the X-Men are actually in deep space, completing what we've been reading in the past called the Brood Saga, or now known as the Brood Saga. And Charles Xavier is on Earth mourning the loss of his second batch of students who he's mourned the loss of before, only to be proven wrong. So I don't know why he would be so convinced that they're dead this time too. And during that period of mourning, what does he do? Well, he refuses to take on any new mutants, any new characters into his school, refuses to be the mentor that he is born to be, until that's all going to change. And he's going to just undo all the things he's been feeling for the
Not again!
months.
Not again!
Never again. Never again until now. I am Jason Lapidus.
I am Chris Sanagan.
And we are a group of 7 comics. And welcome to episode 82 of our Tuesday night live stream, where we read through X-Men comics that became classic. And we're going to read Marvel graphic novel numero 4, The New Mutants, by Chris Claremont, Bob McLeod. And it came out in 1983. So this is very, very exciting stuff. Whoa! Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you check? Did it come out in 83 or 82? Do you mind checking the indicia for me?
Take a look.
Thank you. In our continuity that we're reading, right, so the end of 82, and we're now at 1983 in our reading cycle. We're in the spring of 83, or March, out there for the next time we get back to X-Men. Chris, how are you today?
Doing well, thanks. I'm a bit bedeviled by the New Mutants graphic novel and the New Mutants #1. I mean, there's just similar images, and there's a whole bunch going on there. And it's interesting because #1 does reference events in the graphic novel, but I suppose #1 is also a jumping off point too. So it's like 2 jumping off points, 2 starting points for this new team of young mutant teenagers who Xavier swore he'd never put another team together. And yet, that looks very teamy. That looks very teamy.
It does. So just to clarify, we are prepared tonight to talk about the graphic novel, not New Mutants #1. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, whatever. I got to both here.
All right, that's cool. As long as you're good for that. I don't want to set up expectations that we cannot then fulfill. A few things to cover before we get into it, I guess. It's a little bit of context for this. So one of the overarching objective of our Tuesday night live stream is to read those issues of the Claremont run that became classic, and to stay in with that whole context, that whole long narrative. Once in a while, we have to dance outside of the ongoing title of Uncanny X-Men, and we felt this is one of those times where it's worthwhile to take a look at this peripheral title, given that it really impacts the next issue of X-Men going. We've done this now with Avengers Annual 10, with the Wolverine Limited Series, with Pride of the X-Men, the animated pilot, and now here with...
Which is our second most watched video on YouTube, by the way. Of the 82 we've done, our first is the very first issue of Giant Size. That has our most viewers. And #2 is our take on the Pride of the X-Men animated series. So there you go. Or animated pilot. My apologies.
Hot take on
Hot take, Australian Wolverine.
Another thing to consider, again, this context. So X-Men is the #1 mainstream comic book happening between Marvel and DC. It's selling over 300,000 units a month, which is fantastic numbers for that period. And it's the hottest title, so why wouldn't you branch out? Claremont dips his toe. He's writing other series too. We know that he wrote Marvel Team Up for a while, Power Man, Iron Fist, Ms. Marvel. So he's been writing a collection of characters. Now a chance to branch out with X-Men with a new group. Another piece to keep in mind, I always think, is the idea that originally the concept of the X-Men was pitched to publisher Martin Goodman in 1963 as the Mutants. And Martin Goodman, in his wisdom, said that no one knows what a mutant is. This is a bad idea for a title. Come up with something new. And Stan Lee came up with the X-Men, after, of course, Professor X's, name. For better or for worse, clearly that stuck. It's been around with us now since 1963. Pretty impressive, right? We're in 60 years of X-Men. It's awesome. So when it comes time for a new title, what do you call it? And for whatever reason, they went back to the idea of the team name that didn't work, or that the original publisher rejected, and they go back to the Mutants, and it's the new group of mutants. It's called the New Mutants. For better or for worse, it lasts 100 issues. Okay,
100 straight. Is that when the rebrand happens?
Well, the rebrand happens toward the end of that 100 issues, and Rob pitches it as a rebrand called X-Force, and that has stuck, for better or for worse. And I'm not interested in the moment of criticizing that choice, but that's cool. Let's just give a quick shout out. Speaking of mutants, hello, Graydon James. How are you? Hope you're well. And I was just thinking about you. No jokes. And hello to David Cutler. Pride of the X-Men is the one episode you've done I haven't seen.
Get on it, David.
David, I understand, and no hard feelings, so don't worry about it.
The people have spoken about that episode. You should get on it.
What have you been doing with your life? Yeah, right.
What, you making X-Men comics or something? Get out of here.
Right. So, I think about the zeitgeist a lot. I think about not the X-Men character zeitgeist. I think about the readership of Marvel, how many readers came to X-Men who weren't comic book readers in the first place, how it was pretty much a must-have on the pull list of all the kids in 1983. And New Mutants comes along and has a chance to really be an astonishingly great book, because you've already got the fan base there. You've got 300,000 readers ready to go. And you have some choices to make as to the tone of the book, the kinds of characters you include, who you choose to represent with those characters, and the art direction. You have a great opportunity. And we're going to see what Claremont and Louise Jones at the time, Louise Simonson, the direction that they take things, her as editor and Claremont as writer. There you go. Trevor 16 Shooter, how are you doing, man? Hey, dudes, what's going on up there? I can smell the fires down here on Long Island. Hope it's under control. Yeah, we've got some serious wildfire action happening in Canada, and it is very unfortunate. The damage is catastrophic for so many people, and our hearts go out to them. It is noticeable here in Southern Ontario. Chris, are you smelling it in your neighborhood too?
I'm not smelling it. I'm certainly witnessing it with the haze.
Yeah,
I'm a bit an hour west of Jason, towards Detroit, and it is, it's just hazy.
Yeah, we have a bit of the scent of campfire here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
And the schools are starting to make some different choices for how they're spending their outdoor time or not.
Yes.
But of all the people in the country, or all the locations in the country, we're in a safer one at the moment. And if we get a little bit of stinky air, it's like, this is not a huge problem compared to what everyone else is dealing with. So, really crazy. It's crazy to see the haze.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Considering it's a province, it's not even from this. I mean, there are things happening in Northern Ontario, but this is direct from what's happening in Quebec. So it's province
wild,
pretty wild.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. So, New Mutants. We mentioned before that there was a character who is known as Karma, who
she has a theme song by the band Culture Club.
Karma first appears in Marvel Team Up 100. Beautiful Frank Miller work here.
That is
really
nice.
Early Frank Miller, which is crazy.
That really is nice.
I just think about it now, like from a hindsight point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to introduce a character who will one day be on the X-Men, and you decide to have two perpendicular lines intersecting, and you go for a cross as opposed to an X. Like, hindsight's 2020, obviously. Just put that thing askew, foreshadow her journey toward the X-Men. There you go. But that's such a Frank Miller kick on Spider-Man too. It's like I've seen that right out of Daredevil. Pretty crazy. Anyway, so Karma first appears there a few years back, and then we get, of course, to New Mutants and this graphic novel. So Marvel was putting out graphic novels as a brand, and the first one being The Death of Captain Marvel, and the fifth one being X-Men. I think I have it right here. No, I do not. It's over there.
What about number 2 and 3?
I forget. Feel free to throw that in the chat. Anyone who knows. I forget what they are. Do you know what they are? Are you looking it up?
I'm looking it up.
So let's just, I guess, start with the cover, if you don't mind. Any first impressions of the cover?
Well, it has, and because I have the physical piece, which is yours, thank you, in front of me. Definitely, in terms of, well, what strikes me is like the production of it. Really, I mean, it's a larger size.
Yeah,
it's meant to be this kind of special product, and it looks almost like with the coloring. It feels almost like painting.
It is painted. Yeah.
So there you go. So that comes out. I think in terms of character choices, I think it's fine. I mean, Xavier comes off as very old man Xavier here, and he's got his blanket around his legs and children, no. Another generation that I've sent to their graves. But it's, you know what, if I'm if I'm at that time looking for more mutant comics, more X universe, and these younger X-Men show up on this cover, I think it's pretty intriguing.
I think it's intriguing too, and like you said about the quality. Just a quick note for those who aren't necessarily in the know of comic book production. Normally, the way comics are made, they are not painted. There are often I don't even know what they're called anymore, like production notes, like color samples done by colorists that then go to the coloring production house where they cut out sheets of, they cut out the sheets of color that then get photographed and then printed in their individual color sets over top of the paper, when the black gets photographed on its own. And in this case, the painting was done and the camera is set up that it basically captures each of the colors kind of on its own, the cyan, the magenta, the yellow, and the black, and puts out a layer of each of those. And so because of the photographing process of the colored art, it's able to be reproduced on better paper with more nuance and variance. And it has a more illustrative quality to it, which is kind of neat. And I'm just like, when I look at the cover, like my first thoughts are, okay, X-Men has a certain brand. The title of the New Mutants, the font is X-Men brand. Like, I'm on board. The logo seems right. And then, by the way, look at the title page. Whoever set that up, like, tilted the logo the wrong way. Yeah. They made the bottom flat instead of the top, which is kind of really funny. Trevor's into this. Like, he's saying he loved this early book and he loves the team composition. I think the characters are placed really well. The drawing is really good. But just the choice to have, and this is something like Jonathan Kachuba and I talk about a lot, and a lot of other people too, the idea of like a team makeup and scale and size. And you look at the Fantastic Four in silhouette, and you can tell who everyone is in silhouette. You look at the sort of 90s X-Men, you get Beast either really big or Colossus huge. Always got one big guy or one big character or monstrous character, and then you get your small character. Like, the shape in silhouette matters. And I feel like maybe having Rain, Wolfsbane, in her
Mhm.
like full wolf form, or even conceiving her as a wolf instead of a werewolf.
Right.
Like I'm thinking of, about Harry Potter werewolf, or something that is in between. Like I know she has an in between version she can do,
She does.
but maybe on the cover of the first appearance, like have her as a monster, have her as when she's big, she's a beast character.
She does look like someone's dog.
It looks like you've knocked on their door and Danny is holding back the family dog.
It does.
You've got the kind of leader figure of this team in the front and center, and she's using her head powers, which doesn't do anything.
Mhm.
And Karma's using her head powers, which
Head
don't do
powers.
anything.
Yeah.
There's just the glow around both their heads, but Danny's just holding back the family dog. And I think it's just an unfortunate thing as opposed to putting her in action. I'm going to get to it more about just like later when we get to the end about making characters look cool.
Okay.
And of all the things, all the choices with these characters, I don't know if they ever look cool. I'm not sure. Someone might like it, but I'm gonna let the numbers be kind of the proof of the pudding. Like, does the book achieve the 300,000 sales mark? Does it become a mainstay? Does it become a classic? And we'll get to that at the end.
I think
that's sort of where
ahead.
I'm putting out my question
Right.
that I want to explore as we look at this.
But I think it's you can read that comment.
David says, I use a dollar store wolf toy as Wolfsbane in my New Mutants Marvel Legends display. Yeah, man. That's a great idea.
It's a great one.
I should do that.
What
were you going to say, Chris?
Well, I was going to say that if you come to this product and you're an X-Men fan, they do enough. It's enough of a cover image to completely connect you to that universe.
Right.
But obviously de-aged in some capacity so that
Sure.
you are a little more intrigued. But also they've still gone with, it's like a diverse set of team. Like it's clear that it's a diverse set of characters from somewhere around some parts of the world.
Right. We're getting an echo.
Right. So there's a bit of that international flavor when it comes to looking at the giant size X-Men and their debut coming off of 5 white kids from upstate New York, the original X-Men. So it's interesting. So they follow that template again.
For sure.
And I think if that appeals to you as a reader, which I think it connected a lot in terms of representation to some matter at that time, I think you're probably going to go right into this because it's more mutants from around the world, and there's Xavier and they're a team, and it does enough to completely, I think, probably just attract that readership off the bat. Now, sales-wise, we'll figure it out, but yeah.
I also know. I mean, can't help but note it's three girls and 2 boys,
or it's 2 girls, 2 boys, and a dog.
Right.
So you can't tell the sex from unless you can. But I mean, that's
thanks, man.
No worries.
Trevor says, I thought it was intriguing. No other animals in X books. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It is intriguing. I just think the choice of having her down low as the wolf and Danny kneeling, holding back the wolf, it does say something. Like I can read I can make a narrative out of it. I can make a story. But I'm also thinking about the most exciting a cover can be and the most exciting silhouettes can be. And maybe another thing could have been cooler. Maybe this is cool enough. The fact they're also wearing the same costumes as Kitty, I like uniformity with this kind of thing, so I'm into that.
And it gives them that trainee, right? Like, if you're following the series and you see this, you go, it's the next set of trainees.
Right. It works in continuity. I agree with you. Cutler says McLeod is a good artist, but he wasn't the right choice for the book that's supposed to have the youth energy. Let's see if you and I come to the same conclusion, or if we think that by the end. But I'm definitely listening to that. Sunspot and Cannibal are cool looking.
No, it's
Love the no
Sunsuit.
legs. Right.
It's Sunsuit.
Love the no legs aspect and the crackle around Sunspot. The no legs of Cannonball is a bigger joke than it might seem, Graydon, because the first figure that Marvel Legends put out of Cannonball, he came with no legs. His bottom half is just a blast effect. And fans were like, and consumers were like, hey, we'd really love to have a version where you can maybe put the legs on if you want to have him standing with his teammates. He's not always flying out of a wall. So they gave everyone half a figure with a blast effect.
Have they done another one since then?
Yes, they released a 3-pack and he came with legs. But
legs.
It is in the version like the Rob Liefeld suit. So I do not own.
Oh, goggles?
Yes. And the purple jacket, white pants.
Purple jacket, right.
Yeah, and doesn't speak to me, which is totally fine. Anyway, there you go. I'm gonna take us off the screen if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because Sunsuit, Wolfsbane, and
Canoon
Ball. Yeah, there you go. So we should also note, of course, that it's colored by longtime X-Men colorist Glynis Wein. So it really is the X-Men team, right? We saw Bob McLeod do a couple issues of X-Men. Mm-hmm. We know, of course, Chris Claremont is the writer. Orzechowski is a longtime letterer on X-Men. And Wheezy Jones is the editor on X-Men too. So right away, we start with some action. And it does not say why Moira McTaggart is there or that it is even Moira McTaggart. But we're just supposed to know.
Right.
But we do. I mean, I looked at him and was like, oh, Moira's gone for a midnight walk, on the slopes of her Muir Island.
Ancestral Scottish estate.
And a wolf comes jumping over, and you can see, and there's the transformation. And through her thought balloons, really quickly just tells us, oh, this character can go back and forth. Between wolf and person. Oh, I know exactly who this is. I delivered this child. I know her. This is Rain Sinclair.
Yeah, that's a bit bizarre, but
it's okay. We're gonna. All the exposition happens really quick. There is a werewolf that she knows. Now, Chris, can you just do me or indulge me for a second in the version you have?
Yes.
What side of the page is the splash page on? Like, do I have this right?
On the left. You have it correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure when I was putting it together if there was another.
What the blazes?
If there was a blank somewhere or so.
No, you got it right.
I did the spreads just the way I wanted to, and I noticed that McLeod, who's doing pencils and inks in this, that he does use these angled panel designs sometimes, and they don't necessarily match the opposing half of the spread, but I do actually like the look of it anyway because the color looks really beautiful. The blue skies work really well on both sides, kind of like it makes some color balance.
Yeah.
But as nice and as varied as the color is, I find it is very like the pencils. It's illustrative. It doesn't convey mood. It conveys sort of like what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to give us emotion. So whereas, if a character is seeing red, putting the whole thing in a monochromatic red or whatever it might be, both Bob McLeod as an illustrator and Glynis Wein as a colorist, I just find them very literal. And that has its pluses and its minuses. Anyway.
Right.
Mind if I move? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the other thing that we've seen two, and this is just something that's sticking out as we talk about it or spend some more time, but we've now seen two full frontal images of Wolfsbane as a wolf, and that's not a wolf to me. Does that look like a wolf to you? It looks like a cross in between, but I think of wolves. Is it just me, or is this wolf not a great drawing of a wolf?
It is very cat-like.
Okay. It's almost like, yeah. Anyway, is it because it's her and she's kind of a specific version? But this does not look like a wolf.
No, the coloring choice of having it sort of match her hair is a choice, And again, maybe it's just too darn literal. Like
Mm,
wolf, maybe we need to see a gray and maybe we want to see a gray wolf or a timber wolf of some kind, or some color variants in the fur.
Does Snake Eyes have a wolf?
He does, named Timber.
Yeah, there you go. That's what should be in this.
But the snout is
Yeah,
too.
it is. It's too. It's not
It's not
actually.
long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, she should look more like Michael Jackson in the Thriller video.
Right, with the yellow eyes, right?
So right away we get that Nightcrawler sort of scene reenacted, where Nightcrawler's being hunted in Giant Size number 1, and here we get Rain is being hunted by a local posse
Religious.
led by the religious leader of the community, Father Craig, I think his name is.
Father
And
Craig.
Moira's able to fend him off because of her credentials, her heritage. She's the daughter of the landlord, and so they respect her, but they're going to come for her at some point. They want to get rid of this demon.
Yeah.
It's like classic gang with torches. Like, look at so there they all are standing with torches, right? And again, the color choice is extremely literal. Like they're in moonlight, and the torches are there, and you get all the different colors of their clothing. But you can play with something duochromatic there, where they're like double lit by their torches and the moonlight, and it's really dramatic and hateful and scary. But no, we're going to go really literal and straightforward. Which, again, it's just a choice. She thinks right away, I got to get this kid back because she's been shot, but I got to get her to Xavier. So that's that's where this is all leading.
Which, again, so now we have that continuity from the previous issue where Moira and Xavier actually have a confrontation because they talk about karma.
Right.
And Moira's like, you got to help this girl. And he's like, I can't help any more children die. But, we get it right away where, she is trying to get him involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an enabler.
She's that Moira McTaggart, I tell you.
Yeah, and we get now a soccer scene in Brazil as we meet the next character on the team, Soccer Star. Just one quick art note. Do you see how the characters in the background are kind of grayed out?
Yes.
In the audience, and the top of the fence is grayed out?
Yes.
But the top of the mountains are not. That black line across the mountaintop it drives me nuts. Right. If you're going to give me atmospheric distortion on the top of the fence, you got to give it to me on the mountain too. But that's just me. That drove me a little nuts. Another thing that's making me question it is I think that the coloring of the soccer players, their uniforms, is incorrect. I think the character diving behind this boy who's kicking the ball, the one that we're going to be watching here, Roberto da Costa, I think the character diving behind him is his opponent.
Right.
So that's just okay. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, we got a 3-panel page. That's a big page. 3 panels is not a lot of information.
It is, and again, as we've noted, like the literal physical format of this book. I mean, it reminds me a little bit with the painting style because it's so much larger too. It reminds me almost of like a picture book, like less than a comic book.
Interesting. When you say less than a comic book, what do you mean by less than a comic book?
Or less comic book or graphic novel, more picture book.
Okay, and so that kind of goes with my comment about it being more illustrative, right?
Right. Because they are big. Like, as I'm looking at them now, like those panels are huge. And
it might be, and I've mentioned this to you before, maybe you've forgotten, but it's worth mentioning again regardless. This issue was supposed to be New Mutants number 1. And at the last minute, or nearing the last minute, they were not going to make the deadline for the next graphic novel. Marvel was not going to make their deadline, so they needed a substitute graphic novel. And Louise Jones was asked to pad this issue. So I wonder if certain pages could have been done in one page and it's like spread out over 2 or 3.
Right.
And this one might be one of those where artwork was redone at a larger size, or maybe this was half a page originally, or something. And Claremont has no trouble filling in more verbiage.
Well, no.
But there's not a lot of plot that happens on this page. Let's put it that way.
No, this is the start of, again, this is the intro of the team from around the world, right? This is, we've been here, we've done that with the adversity piece. But interestingly, because they're teenagers, and as we see on this page, we see their powers kind of manifest for, if not the first time, close to the first time.
Right.
Which, in contrast to the X-Men, if we see say Storm in Africa, or Wolverine in Canada, or wherever, Banshee in Ireland, like they are known, like it is a
true
part already of their character. So, and
I gotta correct you, sorry, dude.
What?
Banshee was not in Ireland. He was at the Grand Ole Opry.
Ancestrally.
No, he was.
That's right. Wasn't he a beat cop?
He has been a cop, yeah, but he was at the Opry. He's listening to some music. Nice. He loves boogie woogie and all sorts of things.
He does love.
So yeah, Roberto da Costa is playing soccer and he's dealing with some,
as every good Brazilian kid does,
overt racism. He's like a prep school kid, and they are really rough on him with the verbiage too, right? They're calling him a half breed. Mm-hmm. Because I'm assuming that his parents are visibly from different races, as the Brazilians would perceive them, and they call him a half breed, and they also it's brutal. I'll repeat the line. It's here, just of note that you could write this in 1982 and in a Marvel comic. Your father's wealth can't change the color of your skin. You're still black, an animal masquerading as a human being. So that's fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. And, it's rough reading that now, even still. But as a kid, that's some heavy stuff. So of course he loses his temper and chucks that kid, and everyone freaks out because he's showing his sunspot powers. Right.
That's right.
And,
which are energy based.
Well, they're sun based. He absorbs sunlight and he powers up
like Superman.
Well, you're not the first person to say that, and I kind of maybe think that's a mischaracterization of Superman's powers. Mm-hmm. Look at him like a living battery over a lifetime. Like the sun might be what gives him his powers, but he doesn't, except in a couple recent movies. And maybe in Dark Knight Returns, like he's been absorbing sunlight his whole life.
Right.
It's not like he go outside and go, I've powered up, like Aquaman getting in the water, nice. Or Submariner getting in the water. Superman doesn't lose his powers at nighttime or in the closet. You know how your older brother would shove you in that one bathroom in the house that has no window? That ever happened to you?
And I lose my powers of sunlight?
No. Did you grow up in a house that had one bathroom with no windows in it somewhere, or a room with no windows, like a cold room or a closet?
I definitely grew up with an older brother who didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, our guest bathroom had no windows, and if we would shove, or like the basement, when there's no windows there, you like run up the stairs ahead of the younger kid and turn the lights out and close the door, and then that's the end of them. And they're like, turn the lights out. I can't find my way up the stairs with no lights. Anyway. Superman does not lose his powers when the lights are out, so therefore he doesn't gain his powers when the lights are on.
And
Sunspot, on the other hand, has a much shorter charge.
Okay, and
where he does need sunlight.
And in that's what I did with it. And in X-Men: Days of Future Past, the movie, is that character called Sunspot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I thought that one was a neat take on Days of Future Past.
Almost like a Human Torch.
He was a little bit Human Torchy, but he looked like he was the service of the sun.
Okay.
He had like those arcs of solar energy coming, like solar storms kind of coming off of him. Mm-hmm. And they use that effect on him again in the New Mutants movie, which I rewatched today.
Right, to get some more context going.
Yes.
Gotcha.
David says that he had the bathroom thing, but he was the older brother.
So that's
Oh,
interesting. Yeah, that's it. So that's interesting. We've now seen 2 versions on film of the character of Sunspot,
yes.
which isn't we've seen obviously multiple versions of certain characters, but not too many of duplications. So there you go.
No. So everyone's freaking out, running away, and he's, what? What's going on? Oh no! And his girlfriend runs toward him.
Yeah,
Um,
silly move, girlfriend.
well, it seems like it's going to be fine. It'll be all right, won't it?
Well, I'm sure. Why
And
not?
then we get this other motif again of these angled panels, which I think it works really well here, especially as a 2-page spread. I like the look of this one for sure. And you get this ominous, hand with a puffy shirt who's, zeroing in on his location.
Anytime there's a frill,
camera.
anytime there's a frill at the end of a blazer, watching multiple screens, it's never good.
No,
never good.
I feel like it's it's Austin Powers from his '60s outfit.
It is for sure.
Fascinating, baby. But he's got a drone camera, monitoring this, and then of course he's he's got a targeting computer there, and he has made it very clear he's going to destroy more mutants. This ominous character.
Yes,
take us across the landscape to Kentucky,
and
the mines of Kentucky.
Another trope, the mines of Kentucky.
Yes, sir. And we see young Sam Guthrie, who does not look young at all, but that's okay, I think, considering they're probably dirty. But I do not think that Bob McLeod does a good job capturing the youth of this character at all. In his facial features, I do imagine a 16-year-old would still stand out as a 16-year-old, even if they were dirty. But moving along, there's an incident, and everyone starts to abandon the mine, and Sam goes back to get a character who's pinned, Mr. Lewis, and Sam's powers kick in, and he bursts from the mine onto the mountainside.
Fight or flight, adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And then it says, but what we're not seeing is the next video. What happened?
Right. David says, I think he's got the black lung. You shouldn't joke. That's how his dad died.
Wow, David. Jeez.
David, you're so insensitive to Sam Guthrie. So obviously, Zoolander is fantastic. No problem there. But Sam goes to work at 16. They give him some backstory. They say, weren't you supposed to go to school? Didn't you get in that fancy school? So Sam got himself a scholarship through his hard work at school, but his dad dies of the black lung, and he has to abandon his academics and his future to pay for the immediate bills. And so he follows down the same route as his father, which is like a tragedy, of course, but I think it's also one that we have witnessed play out for countless generations, amongst millions of families around the world, where kids have to work to support the family early on. So that's then the ominous hand is back. Austin Powers returns. Again, art is very literal. Like the lighting in the mine, characters are fully lit. Here's where you'd expect some serious black and very dramatic lighting, but it's very, very straight up. Very clear and illustrative, as opposed to graphic and interesting. My son is texting me about something. It's just a Spider-Verse stuff. Okay, he's home from hockey. That's all I would be. So I want to make sure he was all right. Creighton says, "Is there any better line than things begin to happen?" Is that line there, or did I say it? Either way, I wonder if that's a line in the story. I feel bad now.
Look out, things are happening.
And we move again, and this is some pretty tropey stuff going on here. We get a character in Colorado in the mountains meditating, at dawn, and
it looks cold too.
Yeah, but Danny Moonstar looks like she's very comfortable wherever she is. It's an idyllic situation, and a mountain lion and her are buds. And I have to admit, I don't remember if this is Okay, let's just pretend we don't know any more that happens after, but we're just coming in. We've looked at the cover and we've looked at this. I think she has animal powers.
Right.
So I think this character can speak to animals.
Right.
And that's how I'm choosing to read it, because the cover plus the scene are enough to sway me in that direction. And I do find that mildly stereotypical, like stereotyping in Indigenous characters that they have connections to nature that other people don't have.
Exactly.
So take that as you will. And I have to admit, I want to love this character. I want to love all the characters. And I just find that sometimes when they whine, it makes me hate them. But Ridge Runner is the cat that's here, and a man comes to her, and it's her grandfather, Black Eagle, who tells her, like, listen, you're gonna have to go to school, and with a guy named Charles Xavier. He's a friend of your dad, and or your dad's best friend, and that we've never heard of.
We never heard of nor talked about, but he is your dad's ex-best friend.
And Moonstar here is very offended at the idea of leaving her culture and going to live with, the white culture, calling him a white and an Anglo, and she refuses to go. And in her haste, she conveys a nightmare image in front of them, in from a comic book art point of view, in color hold. So she has natural psychic powers where she can convey someone's nightmare. And in this case, it is a vision that she's conveying from her grandfather, right? Mm-hmm. His own death beating. She conveys in front of him
by two juggernauts.
It looks or mandroids.
Or mandroids, whose names were like Greg and Phil.
Right, but remember we did see the Hellfire Club in the issue where these mandroids came after Wolverine, Colossus, and Kitty when they're at the soda shop when Wolverine's looking at a penthouse.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
What really is memorable for me is the Stormtrooper back apparatus. Of like an old Kenner action figure, the thing on these Mandroid or whatever their armor is called, they have like a Stormtrooper piece there. Graydon is saying on the bottom left page, it's there. Okay, it says fear turns his soul to ice. Adrenaline surges like molten fire through his bloodstream. Things begin to happen. Okay, thank you, Graydon. Nice. David is adding, they eventually do retcon it that part of her power set is that she has an affinity with animals. I think to address how racist this is on its own. Yeah. Either way. I'm reading it as if there are powers, but I do think that the choice to give her those powers plays into that racist trope. But I'm going to find ways to enjoy this anyway. Again, McLeod has trouble conveying her age. Like the panel 5 on the page on the right, where we get that abstract coloring I was talking about. There you get the reds with her anger. Great choice. Like it matters to do that. Like that's part of the language of cartooning and the language of comics is that color, that every element, whether it be panel shape, whether it be lettering choices, whether it be the style of your line, every single choice is there to convey every single aspect of story. So it can convey theme, it can convey subtext, whatever it needs to be. Everything is at your disposal as a cartoonist. As an illustrator, it's much more literal. So I'm glad to see that Glynis Wein makes a cartooning choice as opposed to an illustration choice. But that the rendering on her face, like she no longer looks like the same girl that's cuddling the mountain lion.
Yeah.
And the more lines you put on a kid's face, the less they look like a kid. David adds, it does, yeah, but I prefer it be a power than just, Disney's Pocahontas nonsense. 100%, dude. I hear you. So she sees her grandfather's death beating, and she agrees that she will go. She'll obey her grandfather. And for whatever reason, the drones are allowing this shadow character to witness all of it.
Which they never quite explain.
No, and
they just like, how are these, how are these teenagers being targeted?
It
right?
really doesn't take much to have that Empire Strikes Back tiny probe in the background in a shot. Like, it really isn't hard to do, but they don't do it anyway. And
it's like a different Cerebro, which is kind of strange,
yes,
right?
Yes, it's the anti-Cerebro,
the evil Cerebro. What's its name? Cerebro.
Graydon will likely come up with a good version for an evil Cerebro.
That's your task, Graydon, for the evening of the stream.
I have no
what
doubt.
Is evil Cerebro's name?
And he might just say Roger. Why does it say Wyoming, by the way, on Pierce's monitor? Aren't they in Colorado? Or is that? Oh, that's the different state. It's like the state above it. Or
yeah, I
anyway.
think so.
So it's revealed that this is Pierce, Donald Pierce, a member of the Hellfire Club that we dealt with at the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga.
Did we give him a Jason Statham voice when we reread him?
You say we, but it must have been you.
Sorry. Did I give him a Jason Statham voice?
I hope you did.
I think I did, yeah.
And it was revealed that he was not actually a mutant, but a cyborg.
Right. And not even British.
And speaking of characters in film, he does get a portrayal. There's a version of him in Logan. A great version of him, with the cyborg arm leading the
Skarsgård.
No, I can see why you think it was Skarsgård.
He's not a Skarsgård.
No,
there's like 6
he
of them, aren't there?
There's 26 actually.
There's 26 Skarsgårds. No, but he's the southern guy, right?
He is, and he going to be in the new, or he's already obviously filmed his parts in the new Indiana Jones. But he's in a lot of
he's that guy from the Indiana Jones. His name is Boyd Holbrook.
Yes. Good actor.
That was
Narcos. Did you know Narcos?
There you go.
Yeah. So we see it's Pierce. He's going to be hunting down mutants. He's going to kill them all. Meanwhile, he's got his darling Tessa in I don't even know how to describe what she's in. What do you call in the British a stockade? Like, he's got her in a high-tech stockade
would be you put your head and hands through.
Right. So this is a version of that.
This is like one of those baths for old people where they can't get out of. You know those commercials where they easily come in and out, You
mean a bathtub?
No, but it's a bathtub, but it's pitched to old people. So they sit in the water, and then there's like a door that opens and they get in.
Yeah. Graydon pipes in. Evil Cerebro from California. Cerebro.
Bro.
So he said he's got plans. He's going to kill everybody, and all the power. He hates all the mutants in the Hellfire Club. He's like, yeah, you're still a mutant.
Everybody sucks, but Donald Pierce.
Yeah. And Chuck says, "Hi, diddly ho, neighborinos."
Hey, diddly ho, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck. How are you? Hope you're having a good week, and it's nice to have you here. Have you read The New Mutants before? I have a hunch you have. If not, you're here with us, and we're happy that you're here regardless. We go back to Danny Moonstar, and I really do like the panel choices here. Like, it's chaos time, so throw everything out. Like, all the lines are not parallel or uneven, which is great. She wakes up in the middle of the night at the hour of the wolf. Again, tying her to nature, and she knows something has gone wrong, and she finds her grandfather dead. And of course, it was the beating that
which she foresaw.
Which, she saw, or he foresaw it, and she projected his nightmare.
Right. She also. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
She also rides the horse bareback because, of course.
Yes.
Right. There's that skill set that all Indigenous people have too, by the way.
Right. And I like that she's got this picture of her grandfather on the wall.
On the wall, yeah.
Is that? I think it's her grandfather. No.
It is, yeah. It's grandfather.
Yeah.
It says so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
And then she
Um,
screams at the damn dirty apes in the very bottom corner.
yeah, that's a good panel. I like
It's
it.
good. That's good. Solid. Yeah.
And I like how, she's like, yeah, the sheriff's not going to take it seriously, so I'm going to have to do this myself.
Vengeance.
And she says, you saw this in your dreams, didn't you? It's the image I drew from your thoughts, only I didn't understand it then. Oh, Black Eagle, why didn't you tell me? You could have faced them together, whoever they are, make them pay for your life. I will have vengeance. Yeah, I'm rooting for her.
Yeah. So her
Chuck says he remembers
power
reading
set.
this issue with his next door neighbor. That's cute.
Cool. So her
Like
power
yesterday, Chuck?
before this, she can extract dreams, or she can see people see their nightmares.
So in this case, I think it's, I don't remember if I'm making it up or if I read it in the issue. Her grandfather also has abilities, so he could foresee his own demise.
Right.
But so he had a vision or a nightmare of his own death. Her power is that she can pull your nightmare and use it as a mirage in front of you.
Okay.
So that you think you're living out your nightmare.
Okay.
So if you remember in the movie, which I know you've studied deeply.
Extensively.
There's a scene in, let's say, the swimming pool in the institution where they all are, where Roberto da Costa confesses to a person who he thinks is Ileana Rasputin, that he burned his girlfriend alive. And that's why he can't be with anybody. And then the character proceeds to seduce him, or so he believes. And then they appear as a charred corpse, an animated charred corpse. And he freaks out because that is his nightmare. That's what he did to his girlfriend.
Right.
So your nightmare has come to life in front of you. So that was his nightmare.
And becomes almost physical or corporeal.
Yeah. Corporeal. Yeah.
Corporeal is the word. Thank you.
Now we're back at the rebuilt mansion. Evil Cerebro Part 2. Here we go. Evil Cerebro equals Mentalica. Nice. That's really good, man. That's a nice one. We get the rebuilt school with all this cool future tech, and Professor X and Moira are working on studying karma, and Rain is in the room for some reason, and Moira is wearing goggles for some reason, and she's wearing that costume she wears sometimes.
Yeah, like the science jumpsuit.
And they're working on Karma, whose name is Xian Koi Man. And Xian, again, McLeod just doesn't render her evenly. Like some panels, it's more drastic. That middle bottom panel just doesn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of the features are too flat for her. But again, all these lines, she looks like a middle-aged woman as opposed to a child. Chuck says, why doesn't YouTube chat have a like button? That was a quality comment from Creative. I don't know if it's YouTube that's the issue or it's that I'm using StreamYard. I don't know. There might be a way to, either way, I think just, Oh, Graydon says he likes Cutler's comments. He finds a way. There you go. Science reasons. Yes, that's why she's wearing goggles. All right. So they're talking about doing tests on her and how she uses her powers. And so she decides to demonstrate. And she's trying to explain to the rest of the gang how her powers work, where she herself really takes over another person's body and is able to inhabit that body completely while she can still maintain her own body in a much weakened state. And it's so disturbing to Rain that Rain immediately turns on her powers in a really weird, creepy looking way.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this in that session this morning, Chris, but characters kind of have to look cool. You have to things have to look good in comics, even if they're scary. or even if they're disturbing, it still has to be interesting to look at. These two versions of Rain in like half transformation, wearing a blouse and skirt, it doesn't look good.
It looks like someone put on a mask. It looks like it's clearly not a place of comfort for McLeod. And
yeah,
have you ever seen the movie Wolfen or Wolfen 2? They're not very good. This is what it reminds me of. Bad 80s werewolf movies.
right. Yamao, how are you doing? Yamao says, I think she's supposed to be 19. Yeah, she doesn't look 19 at all. But that's okay. She looks like Edna from The Incredibles in that bottom middle panel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, we've seen this a lot from Cockrum too, where sometimes he would have trouble rendering children. I think this is a really common thing with a lot of cartoonists for drawing kids, especially babies. It's a very, very challenging thing. And, I think about artists like John Bogdanov, or I think he maybe was like the best at drawing like Franklin Richards back in the day and Power Pack. Bogdanov, he was able to.
It's not like Byrne at a great tracker with children.
Oh no, Byrne was not good.
Byrne is not.
But if you ever want to see, check out a guy named John Bogdanov, and really like his Franklin Richards or any of his Power Pack, they always looked like they were little kids, and they were adorable and on brand. David throws in his comment here: between Cockrum and McLeod, there were a lot of artists at the time who didn't want anything to do with Kirby's innovations. Oh, what do you mean? Sorry, I've lost the thread here. Which innovation from Kirby? You mean like his style of dynamics? Or I'm sorry to make you have to type out something more explicit, but I'm a dum-dum. Maybe we're talking about trying to make characters look interesting, like Wolfsbane. But you'll explain further. Don't make me have to phone you and ask you on the telephone. So now, like, look how heavy this is. Just look at the word count on this page.
This is just wild.
Oh, okay. So David says, I mean, what's happening is generally flat and unexciting. Absolutely. It is flat and unexciting, and definitely a generation after Kirby where we're seeing a lot of these guys not drawing things in a dynamic, how to draw comics the Marvel way mandate, where, Kirby kind of was unofficially art director, and then even when Romita Sr. becomes art director, he's kind of held to it for a time as part of their brand. But like, look at this, man. We've been talking about this thing that DC used to have and Alan Moore held to, which was a 35 words per panel count, sort of on a typical 5 or 6 panel page. And like, this is being broken 1,000 times over. So the word count here is ridiculous. Do you remember what's happening here? And like, Shan does not look 19. Again, she looks 40.
Yep.
She's talking about the differences between her and her brother, who is now dead, and how he was much more abusive about the use of his powers. And they're trying to figure what they're going to do next, what the next move is. Xavier decides he doesn't want to teach a school, but he comes around. Losing his students is unbearable. Some good acting from the characters on this page, though, a little bit better than usual. And eventually, they're going to have to make a move. They're going to have to.
He looks so old, Xavier, in these.
Yeah, he's old and tired.
But then again, he might have a baby brood inside him, right?
That's true. He is. He's eating for two. Very uninteresting staging, medium camera angles, goofy designs. Agreed. I agree with that 100%. Also, just going to say it about Karma. That's a racist caricature. Yeah, say it. Go for it. I think that is a reasonable perspective to take, for sure. So yeah, it's a very uninteresting spread.
Mm-hmm.
Doorbell rings, and there's a letter from Colorado, which is like another like inciting incident, right? As he gets this letter from the father of his friend. saying, "Hey, my granddaughter's a mutant. Come check her out." And so he's like, "All right, everyone up for a West Coast trip," and so they go. And on the next page, they're at the guy's funeral.
Yeah.
And Karma is reliving some nightmares from Vietnam because, we know Danny Moonstar is using her powers to
somewhere off panel. Yeah.
Yeah, bring about a nightmare. And it upsets Karma, so she runs away, which is fine, but the explosion is real. So we're hopefully going to get some action now. There is some dramatic lighting I've been looking for on that explosion. And we see that those Mandroid dudes, whatever they're called, they are back. And they're chasing Danny. And
who I guess was just like... Right, so that's a bit of a strange sequence.
She was there.
And clearly using her powers on this team, and then suddenly...
Yeah,
chased.
It's awkward. Jason Lowe is here. To me, my ex-friends. I didn't know you were doing this book tonight. So cool. Kind of so cool. Kind of. There are definitely some very cool things about it, no doubt. Glad you're here. Jason, quite a flex you've been posting on social media with how many pages you've been penciling in such a short period of time. I hope you're doing all right. I really loved the one you posted where your face was like half open after you'd penciled 10 pages. How many did you pencil? 8, whatever, something ridiculous, but it was funny. I laughed at your face in all the ways you intended. So thank you for doing that. So Danny's running away from these dudes. The mountain lion comes to help her. The guy chucks the mountain lion, and is it dead? Like, I think it's the last we see of Ridge Runner, is it not?
I mean, is it back on Krakoa? I don't know.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to get there. Jason says, my face melted from penciling 10 pages in 10 hours of work. That is insane. You are a machine. I'm very impressed by you. Maybe some pretty uninspiring colors of that, just all magenta. Like every part of that armor suit and the hover cycle thing is the hover pad, whatever that is, also full magenta. Like, can we not get another color in there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, Chris? What would you do there?
Well, as a colorist, having the magenta on top of the magenta is a bit of a strange.
A lot of magenta.
I love it so much.
Anyway, Karma gets in the mix and uses her visually uninteresting powers of taking over the guy's body. He shoots his mates. Then we get the mask taken off, and there's some conversation with Xavier, some more head powers, some more talking, and Danny is hurt.
Okay.
And Jian resets her shoulder, pardon me. Xavier's wearing a jacket that's out of character.
Mm-hmm. Whenever I go to Colorado, I always wear my Colorado jacket.
They do some more talking.
The one with the checkers.
Moonshot tries to gut this guy. And,
So here we go. This is those parallels again. This is the Wolverine moment. Every time, especially those early issues, anytime someone would, put a cup in the wrong place in the drawer, Logan would be like, I'm gonna gut you for that. Or put the butter in the wrong spot or something, So this is a very much that having that kind of hothead character, right?
Yes.
Emotional, I suppose.
David says in response to Jason, how's it possible 10 and 10? Congrats. And Jason answers back, Chip wrote 10 pages that took place in space or a dark background. Nice. Well, it's still fantastic to move through your workload like that.
I thought, Jason, you're just going to say, well, they're not very good.
Jason says, I dig the watercoloring in this book. Yeah, it is, whether it's watercolor or like Doc Martin dyes, whatever Glynis is using, it might be some of the things that like regular colorists at Marvel in the time were using as color guides for the coloring crew, with like a little more attention put on some of the transitions and fades and such. But when they know they're going to be photographed, the art will be photographed differently and produced at a higher resolution. They used another technique. So this was Nice for the graphic novels. Part gouache, perhaps? Yeah. I tried to figure out exactly what was used, but I wasn't able to get the 100% answer. So we move now back to Brazil as the team is going to go track down Roberto da Costa. And there's some plot twist. Like, there's been a kidnapping, kind of. Something's happened. And because Moira phoned Roberto's house, the police are coming for Moira and they backhand her.
Every phone in Rio is bugged.
And of course, the mutants on the team do not take kindly to this. So you know, they're going to make a little plan. Xian tells the police officer, like, basically, you're not going to handcuff me all the way. You're just going to put it on and keep it unchained. And then you're going to punch your partner as we're making our escape. Cause a distraction. That's perfect. So Moira, stay behind, work it out with the cops, make sure the truth comes out, and we're going to go solve this problem. And then we find out Roberto was not something to do with, he's in on some kind of kidnapping thing behind the scenes, and we don't, it's a really weird plot idea that his girlfriend's been kidnapped and he will surrender himself so that she'll be set free. But of course, they're never going to set anyone free. They're going to kill them both because the agenda is to kill the mutants. And this guy in red, who feels familiar, is a manhandling Roberto, who looks tiny, which is probably a good thing. Yeah. Now, let's talk about these dudes.
They're back.
We met these guys before. We met them in that weird body swapping adventure where Aurora and the White Queen swap bodies. And these are specific henchmen, specific pawns of the Hellfire Club that were in the employ of Emma, but they were the ones that were hurt by Wolverine. So these were the ones that are cyborgs that will eventually go on to become Reavers. Is that
Cole? Cole is one of them.
Cole, Reese, Macon.
Yeah.
Not Cutler, which really upsets me. I really wish Cutler.
It is amazing, though, how these three goons keep coming back.
And they're schmucks. But they look awful. The costume does not look good at all.
No.
We can look at the blue portion, how it's in, like, there's a lot of black on it, and the blue is the highlight, which was how they are in the Byrne issues. The blue is the dark, and the red is just an accent. So this is an inverted suit, but maybe make the red, like with Guardian, have it like a blackened red, where only the highlights are red, as opposed to the whole thing being red. They look like the worst unitards.
Right, like bad Halloween costume versions of them.
And then we still have the same problem as before. Is that piece a mask? Is it their face? Because if it's a mask, how does it sneer in the second panel?
Right.
How does it morph and sneer like that? They are really like creepy masks if you make it a mask.
Yeah, they are super creepy.
And if it's a face, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I'm just not a fan. They look yucky. They don't look cool at all. I don't know. Jason says maybe they're latex masks? Maybe. But then why wear them? They're stupid faces. I don't like it at all. Jason says they look like Manhunter cosplayers, like from DC's Manhunter. Yes, they do. David says Cutler left the Hellfire Club, cleaned up his life, became mutant rights activist, all because he saw the new orange uniforms. Yeah, man.
That was the breaking point for Cutler.
You're right. Absolutely right. How does the mask sneer? Chuck says. Unstable molecules is the answer. Mm-hmm. Damn right. You guys are pros. I can't ask these dumb questions because you have such brilliant answers that make total sense in context. So Roberto finally gets his nerve up and starts fighting back and uses his powers. Cool.
But, again, only lasts for so long.
Yep. Like that punch to the guy's torso there.
Should go
I'd
right
like to think that should have destroyed that guy's abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, kiddo. You'd have flattened a normal guy, but we ain't normal. We were once, till the mutant named Wolverine cut us to ribbons, near killed us. Now we all talk like Wolverine.
That's
So
right.
now they're all bionic.
As an homage to Wolverine, we all talk like Wolverine.
I have done nothing. I've done nothing to you. I don't even know you. You exist, Bunky. So when was Bunky an option for a nickname? Was it a term of endearment, or was it like an insult, like a put down of some kind?
Yeah.
Calling somebody Bunky? Do you know anything about Bunky?
I don't know anything about Bunky.
Are you Bunky?
Whoa, dude, that's back off, man.
So this next panel of Sunspot picking up that piece of rubble is like the coolest picture of him in this comic. His teeth, his eyes, like he's shaking and trembling, and there's lots of the dot action. It looks, to me, it looks really great. Like he looks kind of interesting and terrifying. And then he fades out in the next panel. He says, "My head spinning. What's happening? My strength. Where's it gone? Surprise, surprise, Bunky. Hotshot's run out of gas, Bunky. I'm not your Bunky friend." Trevor says, "We are all Bunky." Thank you. It's a diminishment, like kiddo. Could be gentle kidding or, pejorative. Sure. Bunky.
Bunky.
It feels very dated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you have to smell like patchouli to say Bunky, maybe?
Maybe.
So the other mutants arrive to help, and they, of course, pull the nightmare out of these guys' mind, and it is Wolverine. And they're freaking out. Magenta Wolverine!
Yeah.
Magenta Wolverine!
It can't be!
And the team sort of forms around him and starts fighting, and yeah.
Danny, of course, knows martial arts because, again.
Yep, that's a pretty good kick.
Yeah.
And Sunspot just demolishes Shian. It says here, as Shian drops, stunned, her concentration broken. Again, that should crack some ribs. That should like rupture a few internal organs. And then, as this one goon in the middle tier on the page on the right, "Ain't gonna work, bunkies." Yeah, he actually says that. Oh, I'm sorry. And Shion is hit by a bullet after getting her abdomen destroyed. And Roberto's girlfriend, Juliana, takes a bullet for him too.
Ultimate sacrifice.
She does.
She does.
Bye, Juliana.
R.I.P. Juliana.
And this guy is pissed his pants because of the fear of Wolverine. So everyone regroups, and they're like, "Okay, we got to make them pay. Let's join forces and make them pay together." Meanwhile, Professor Xavier and Rain are driving in a Jeep in Kentucky on their way to recruit Sam, I guess. And Sam plows into them. He is now a mercenary in the employ of the Hellfire Club, wearing the cool version of the uniform. No?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. They gave him the cool version.
The chopper with
the mask is still
small
not
rotors.
right, but
True. And the helicopter here with the incredibly small rotors has landed. And basically, his moment of truth is here, where they're like, "Hey, we paid you to help. Let's kill everyone." He's like, "Wait a minute, why are we doing this? What's happening?" All right, I'm going to follow orders. I'm just not liking this. And I love the panel where the helicopter's flying away and Rain on the ground is in silhouette checking it out. Mm-hmm. That's a good looking panel. Then we get this awkward transformation on the next page.
It reminds me of like biblical illustration.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like when you look at here in the good Bible,
all those werewolves in the Bible.
Right. Whenever they're like, the monks here have drawn in a proto-wolf person into the margins. It always looks like that. It's just so not right.
So, right. And then there's this really weird moment where she jumps the fence and she has her body as wolf, but her head.
It looks like a creature that it would appear on a map in like the 1300s. Don't go to the sea of whatever. Only wolf people live there. I don't know.
Yeah, it is not
So
the highlight of this book, but is definitely the highlight of this episode for me.
So awkward.
Like those medieval cat paintings.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, not good. Ooh. Anyway, and there she's way too feline as opposed to lupine. Way too feline.
Way too.
They've got Xavier captured, hooked up to the mind machine, and she's got to do something. And she's hearing the voices of the other people, and they're all cool. And anyway, Cannonball comes. They're in opposition for a minute, and he takes off because he experiences the nightmare of the cave-in. Does she run on her hands? Good question. Ancient map corner box action. Yes. How does a centaur wolf even work? Yeah, these are all, yes.
Yes.
Garden of Earthly Delights reign. Yeah, man. There's so much here. Wolfwing looks so uncool. It makes you want to stop reading comics and do something with it.
That's the t-shirt from this episode.
Right. All right. You guys are all right on. Oh my gosh. My face is starting to hurt. So now, yeah, she's now tearing into some guys. I want to see this kind of werewolf action. Anyway, everyone's using their powers to a more effective extent. They've got to do with Cannonball for a minute. And Karma gets her hands on a rifle or machine gun there. She talks about where she was learning, thanks to her dad for teaching her to shoot. Oh my gosh. Anyway, Sunspot tears through that machine, and the X-Men, the New Mutants circle in on Pierce's location where he's got Xavier. There's a bit of a scuffle, and it's not a very exciting scuffle. Like David was saying, the angles and the how far away the shots are, like the distances, these mid shots are really uninteresting. It all plays out just fine, and Pierce thinks he has the upper hand, and the last minute, wow, okay, so Cannonball gets involved, and it's about to go really, really bad, and then all of a sudden, Pierce pulls out his pistol, his
Derringer,
yes,
his cutlass, or whatever it is,
and it won't work because Xavier is now powered up again. He's the dampening field is gone because of the damage to the room, and he's able to control Pierce. So Pierce is toast.
I do love those Sam where he's like, I don't understand, Mr. Pierce. What do you want me to do with them? You know, toss them out the property like the lowlives they are, or take them to the local sheriff? It's like, I want them
killed. No, sir. Very well, mutant. Since you choose to side with your own kind against your benefactor, you can share their fate. You will be a bunkie from now on.
You are a bunkie.
Graydon says, one thing I do like is a fight scene where the new minted heroes get in each other's way. Yeah. And he's giving some shouts to the commentary. David says, McLeod is a better artist than me by a lot, so I don't want to knock him. He knows how to draw everything. He's just not what I think of when I think Marvel. Valiant, maybe. There's nothing wrong with criticizing the work here, and maybe you're selling yourself short. He is a very good illustrator. I agree with you. This is just not work that stands up or holds up really well. And I think we can be critical. We don't judge him as a human being, but he might have been better suited to be an artist in the series after someone else had set up a better template. Like, there are a lot of great TV directors that work under a fantastic showrunner once the showrunner has done the pilot and sort of set it up. But I don't think he was the right choice to establish the New Mutants, which is taking us to the end of our conversation, but we'll hold off on that thread for a minute. We get the conversation round up at the end. We We got a lady in a bathing suit for some reason.
A Playboy bunny who shows up. It's like,
And they talk about what are they going to do, and they leave without Sam Guthrie, and it seems real sad. But of course, it's remedied on the next page. Xavier's reflecting, looks at the original team. Beast is miscolored, by the way. His suit should have red in the middle, not yellow. And we got the next version of the X-Men there. Cyclops is miscolored.
Yeah, there's that version of that Angel costume too. Eh?
Yeah, the ugliest Angel costume of all time, which I really hope they make a figure of. Please, please, please. Cyclops did not ever wear a costume like that in that time period. And that's in the next one.
But he's kind of like Xavier here is like, it is time to put another portrait of my dead students on the wall.
On my fake wood paneling.
On my fake wooden panel.
And another example of we have to objectify one of these minors, you know. So yeah, we get a version of Danny without a top on, and then just the shirt she's about to put on. That is like a unitard, no? Like,
yeah.
But is that what their costume goes on? Okay, anyway, I don't want to get into that too far. I do love Rain with the costume on. It is so much better. Her transformation, it's just the classic X-Men classic X-Men Fantastic Four unstable molecules thing at play there, totally. And Danny decides she's not going to wear the uniform as it was given, but she's modified it with, some decor or some adornments that are meaningful for her and do distinguish her from the other dark-haired character on the team. Other artists take Danny to some good levels, like Art Adams adds a lot to her. But anyway, we get a knock at the door. Yep, Wolfsbane goes to get it, and it's Sam Guthrie wearing a suit and tie. And they agree to let him on the team, and there you go. And that's the end. The dream.
There you go.
The graphic novel also included some concept sketches for Sam Guthrie. One where he's wearing a mask with
really? No, the version you gave me it doesn't. But
okay, then I can't remember where I got these from. Then
okay,
I lied. Maybe they were in the. I don't know where I got them. Online.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept sketch of Sam Guthrie, which is basically Havoc.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Figuring it out.
I actually liked his. Now that we can talk a little bit about the movie, I like the actor who played him, the guy from Stranger Things. Forget his name. He's British, I believe. But I liked his portrayal of kind of like the kind of tough luck kid from Kentucky. I thought it was all right.
David says, willing to bet there's a recolor there that Danny was meant to be bare-legged in her underwear. I'm going to go back and look and see if I see evidence of that too. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. It creeps me out either way. Xavier looks real creepy a few times there, or a few times here. Yes, he does. Those face sketches have a real Bernie Wrightson feel to them. Yeah. These guys are all excellent drawers when they have the time and space to do so. Otherwise, she's putting her costume on in the wrong order. Yeah, you make a good point. You put the top on first, then the bottoms. Mm-hmm. If the bottoms go under like that. That's a good point. You know a lot about putting on leotards. And that's cool. I want to know more about that, David. I bring this up, X-Men #1, for a reason. Cover, we get something similar, right? All the X-Men in their uniforms, in action in some way. This is like the template, right? Like classic Kirby. New Mutants, we get the same thing. All the new X-Men in their costumes, kind of using their powers in some way.
Iceman on a pole?
Iceman, and this is the opening page, okay? They're all using their powers again. Right off the top, it's like, classic Jason Lowe. To me, my X-Men. And, Professor X calling all X-Men. And they all burst into the room, somehow displaying, right? Which is cool. And in the next few pages, they right away are showing off all their powers. Right. If we look again at now the Jim Lee X-Men, this is the first page. Just crazy space stuff, lots of weirdness. Like, I'm not sure. But the second page is this. Like, maybe the best Magneto drawing ever, whatever. But it's really dynamic right off the top. Like, that's the brand. Is Kirby 63 is his version of dynamics in that time. You know, Jim Lee taking this again about a decade after New Mutants graphic novel.
Wow.
Starting X-Men off with a bang. It's X-Men #1. There's like something about that in the brand that, like, it's got to be dynamic off the top. And it just feels like Bob McLeod is not a dynamic enough artist to set the stage for a successful decade of New Mutants. Maybe it's the wrong title, not a dynamic title.
Might be.
Off-brand in a way, you know? Mm-hmm. Maybe the look of the team isn't dynamic enough. Think about these training uniforms are interesting. Kitty wears one successfully. I mean, she wears one as part of a group of characters that aren't wearing it, so she's the only one.
Yeah.
But maybe everyone wearing this costume, it's a little bit too boring. And you look at it again, a decade later, not even 6-7 years later, Jim Lee brings these uniforms back to the X-Men, and they look incredible. He adds a couple straps, changes a couple of the lines, makes them blue instead of black, covers the shoulder. You know, I have my head swapped Kitty Pryde right here, but like they're all in that uniform. You okay, by the way? You're crying about that the book we're reading?
I get really emotional about Bob McLeod's artwork.
So essentially, this is the same costume, right?
Essentially.
But it's so much more dynamic the way that Jim Lee draws it. And sure, it doesn't last, but it kind of does. Like, it's made an impression on a whole generation. The Jim Lee version of that costume. So the costume choice, the characters' power sets and the way that they're shown, the name of the book, the series lasts 100 issues. It's never the top-selling series until the series is doing so poorly that they need to bring on someone new with fresh ideas. And new X-Book editor, Bob Harris, is all about the artists of the day, giving Jim Lee free reign over Chris Claremont on X-Men. And so he brings over Rob Liefeld to do his young guy, energized best to invigorate New Mutants. He comes in around, what, issue 86, 87, 88, and cleans house, gets rid of the characters, modifies the ones that he wants to keep, the ones that have cool powers, brings in a new headmaster with Cable as a cross between Punisher, RoboCop, and Rambo. Right. You know, he's in Cable, right? He's got all these great qualities. Total anti-hero kind of guy. And within 10 more issues, the series is rebranded X-Force. Starts at #1. Dynamics. Like, that is the brand. Is like, you got to do dynamics if you're going to do X-Men.
Is Claremont write New Mutants the whole way through?
No, he's off, and Louise Simonson takes over.
Okay.
And it's her and Liefeld that butt heads. Harris sides with Liefeld, and Louise is off the book. She just has it seems, through all the interviews and comics of hers that I've read, she's very sensible and level-headed and likes character development, does not have the same kind of feel for exciting and dynamic that Liefeld, with all of his limitations, that's what he's bringing, right? He's bringing the energy. He wants to see something that appeals to him, that is cool to him, and his stuff impacts a generation. And sure, it only goes skin deep, right? Those characters are everything about them is on the surface, which is totally fine for what it's supposed to be. But I don't think there was enough in the DNA, the very beginning of New Mutants, to make it iconic enough to stand the test of time.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I haven't really read. This is the only thing that
Maybe that's why.
I've come across.
Right? Like maybe there's no reason to read it. Like there's not a lot of juice there. But when Bill Sienkiewicz takes on art duties with Claremont, the book takes on a whole nother level for a stretch of time.
Okay.
But no one can carry it on after that.
Okay, so in other media, got the movie New Mutants. Is there any of this in the animated series? Is there like an episode or anything that like references these characters or anything like that? Any like that?
I think we do see a few of them pop up in like Genosha background characters.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who was on the X Factor team that they fight. I think Iceman was there, Havoc and Polaris.
Okay.
I forget who else. Quicksilver.
And Cannonball is the only one who graduates to the X-Force team.
No, Sunspot does too.
Oh, okay.
Wolfsbane does too, but then she's kind of...
Is she called Feral?
Supposedly two different characters.
What?
I always just thought it was an upgrade, like that.
Yeah, like an adult version?
Or that as a kid, even like at 15, I thought Liefeld was just like, oh, I'm just going to upgrade the character. I'm going to power her up a little bit, make her extreme.
No.
But Feral is supposedly a different character.
Sure. Okay.
Sure.
Cool.
Like let's look at it from a storytelling point of view. It is just a different iteration of the same premise, right?
Of course.
Right.
I'll ask the question.
Exactly. Graydon says, it's hard to have dynamic art with staid plot. There's too much intro without action. Put them in trouble. Have them all running from Pierce as they get discovered or something. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty fun when you take a group of kids who are outcasts, and it doesn't take much to turn them into a group that feels like they are a bit of a gang.
Yeah.
Like they got each other's back, and their body language reflects the fact that, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like it really can work.
We're not far off the kids on bikes trope here.
Right.
It's the young group of kids put into extraordinary circumstances. In this case, they're mutants, but saving the day. They're definitely outcasts. They are not the kids who get invited to parties at school or whatever it happens to be. Bullied, but come together to, the Goonies, Stranger Things, Paper Girls, like so many of those, right? And, Ninja Turtles too. So,
right. Trevor says, I love New Mutants for the most part. X-Force, not so much. Yeah, I wasn't a reader of New Mutants at the time as a kid, and X-Force was a turnoff for me. But all of the Image guys, once they got control over the storytelling at Marvel, I stopped being able to understand the stories easily, and I lost interest. But that was then. But I hear you, man. I still don't. The only issue of X-Force I have is the one that Mignola drew.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, man. It's super cool. Yamau says a lot of them are in the second animated series. When you say second, do you mean
Wolverine and the X-Men, or
no? That would be the third. It would be X-Men Evolution. Is that what you're referring to? I'm trying to think about. I have to go through my head and see who I can remember seeing there. Trevor says, but at the time, we didn't have 12 different X books to read, so it was cool to have another X-Men related book. That's right. This is the first ongoing spinoff.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal. And I think about what it could have been, and then what it wasn't. It was the X book that we all wanted, Jason says, I agree with Trev. That's a commandment. Agree with Trev, everybody. Yes. Claremont is greater than Liefeld. I don't think that we're going to debate that one too much on the channel that's devoted to reading the Claremont run. I don't want to talk about them too much, but I do, always acknowledge that I watch and listen to a lot of cartoonist kayfabe, agreeing with some of it, disagreeing with some of it. But I love the fact that those guys, both Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor, will read Image artist era X books with a lot of love, like unabashed love for those books. At the same time, also call them unreadable. They're like, I love the way this is rendered. I love the pose of this. This is the stupidest story I've ever read. And I know whose fault it is. I don't know what's going on here. This is a crazy choice. I love it, but it's terrible. So I have no sentimentality. The part where I love it from childhood isn't there. I just find it unreadable. But I do like some of the art choices on occasion. But so we don't have to debate if Liefeld is better or not as good as Claremont, because it's all good, man.
It's all good.
Yeah. Jason Lowe says, Mao says yes to agreeing with Trev. Yes, for sure. For sure. I want to get some Bill Sienkiewicz Bill Sienkiewicz New Mutants into your hands at some point, Chris. And I also would love you to get the chance to read the New Mutants special by Chris Claremont.
Is it a holiday special?
Yeah. And Arthur Adams. Hey, is it in your Asgardian Wars?
Possibly.
Do you know what's in that besides?
No, it's only the X-Men Alpha Flight crossover that I have.
You sure? It doesn't have an X-Men annual in it and a New Mutant special?
I don't know. Let's double check.
Okay, you check it. If you see some Arthur Adams in there, you got to send me a big thumbs up on some sort of text message that you and I might have.
Sure.
All right, man. What else do we need to cover here?
Well, we joked because it's an X-Men show, and we're saying that I just saw the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 this weekend, a month later, and you imagine a bunch of you already seen it, but there was an X-Men reference in it, and I think actually Chuck brought it up the last time we talked. He said the Ani-Men are referenced, and we had so much fun with the Ani-Men earlier on in issues of the show. So that's just a fun little thing. I got so much joy out of that line in the movie. Just it's more evidence the X-Men are coming to the MCU.
You mean the Ani-Men are coming? Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, Croker's going to be right there. Okay.
Croker's getting his own Disney Plus.
Getting his own spin-off series. For the win, anyway.
Yamo says it does contain the New Mutant special. There you go, Chris.
Okay.
You get some to look at. You want to see them look cool? Check out the way Adams draws them. They look super cool. Like, think about adding in Magic, Eliana Rasputin.
Yeah.
Giving her that one armored arm, the sword. Like, it looks so much cooler when you have just that as a graphic.
Yeah.
Her silhouette that she adds, her stance, her attitude that she brings. It really does so much for the look of the team. Just putting that out there. Something like that. It really it adds a lot. Anyway.
Yeah.
There you go. What do you want to promote?
Well,
crowdfunder happened. Good job.
Thanks, everybody. We raised over $3,000. Actually, no, really, seriously, thank you.
No, huge. So that's coming.
Brand new comic is out. Peregrine's Hunter's Moon. That's there. All these are available to order on our website, by the way. They've all been updated. We are going to be in the lovely city of Mississauga, Ontario, just adjacent to Toronto, the end of June, as part of Gotham Central's big, cool pre-summer bash. It's going to have people like us, plus live wrestling, which I totally cannot wait to see.
Oh, you didn't hear? You and I are
facing Is it us? Off. Amazing.
We're facing off.
Got my cape out from retirement. It's going to be great.
I'm going to use David's instructions on how to put on a unitard.
That's right.
Or my singlet.
That's right.
Food
trucks, a whole bunch of cool stuff. That's happening in Gotham Central, Mississauga.
The only thing I'll tell you about my wrestling persona is I'm going to be painting my tongue green.
Nice. Big blue bastard. Wasn't that for Trailer Park Boys?
No, it was the green bastard from Parts Unknown. But I said I'm painting my tongue green. So anyway.
So that's kind of what's going on in our life right now.
Yep. All right. That's cool. Well, next week we'll be returning with the next issue in Uncanny X-Men, which I believe is 167.
Yes.
And which will be episode 83 of our never-ending series.
Xavier's brood baby.
Right. Where when the X-Men are returning from
Yes.
space, they have to deal with whatever's going on with Xavier. And of course, the New Mutants are now in the house. What?
That's going to be awkward.
Awkward. Someone left the toilet seat down. Yeah, we'll see. All sorts of fun bathroom situations. All right, dude, let's call it a night. I'm going to go get some coloring done. And everyone, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. It's been really nice to see.
Today was great. Great chat.
Yeah.
Lots of energy.
The
awesome.
stars of the show.
Yeah.
You really helped put a smile on my face. So thank you for making my face hurt. That was a lot of fun. Chris, I hope you have a good one. And everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And I know I enjoyed it a ton. So have a wonderful night. And we will see you next time on Previously an X-Men next week. All right. Cheers. Everyone, have a good night.